Alright, everybody, it's our Clow here, and as we seem to be edging ever closer to the brink and point of dissolution, I am just so very excited, bordering on elated, to be able to present this information to you today, because I feel that it has profound implications for feeling empowered in the wake of what is currently happening, and knowing that this is not the organic progression of world events, but this is actually the result of the meticulously calculated and orchestrated efforts of the powers that be to manifest their new world, to complete the great work. And so in that knowledge, I feel that it can give a sense of just strength and confidence to not fall victim or prey to the state of fear or anxiety that they absolutely wish to impose on you. And so with that, and since I have such an incredible amount of information I want to cover today, I do want to jump right into things very quickly. I want to thank all of you who have been following and supporting this channel for however long. It is just tremendously inspiring and important to me to know that this information is reaching some of those, hopefully more than I'm aware, with the capacity for understanding it and doing with it what needs to be done, right? We have this whole ripple and cause and effect bit going here. And so for those of you new to the channel, prepare to be overwhelmed. I do want to encourage you to check out my previous videos, as one of the golden threads on this channel is that all of my presentations build off of one another. And throughout today, I'm actually going to be referencing a number of previous videos to really do my best to drive these points home and create the most compelling arguments that I can. Again, this is strictly for educational purposes. None of this is an absolute. And I am just giving you my perspective so that you can take whatever pieces may resonate with you and do with them what you will. Now, with that, let's jump right in here. And you notice that I had the favorite phrase of the world pulled up there, to follow the science. And now I want to unpack this today. And in doing so, there are a number of foundational points for me to set here. First of all, it is a 16-letter phrase. Of course, the Tower card is the corresponding tarot card to that number. This card, of course, representing the cataclysmic event setting forward, right, monumental changes, right? This destruction from which we have the rebuilding, right, in the image that is chosen to be seen. So conceptually, that is all over the board. I want you to also see the reductions of those letters. FTS is 621, or a mirrored 126. Now I'm going to talk about these throughout today's video. Of course, 126, a number that I was really honed in on in my previous presentation, and today you're going to continue to see an expansion of that. But before we get into all of these pieces, let's point out some synchronicities. So my last video was released on January 8th of this year, and today is May 1st. So between those dates, we have a span of 114 days. Now, I want you to see here the connection on the right side of your screen. Again, this is an excerpt from the last video in which we emphasize that number 114, and you can see it connected to the phrase the Tower. Notice as well the references to Corona hoax, New World, Holocaust, 2, 3, and the phrase World War. Now, we're of course going to unpack all of these as we, really set things into motion here. But I also want to take this opportunity to emphasize to you the way that I am trolled for these synchronicities. So of course, here you can see today, but I want to show you as well the first video that I had put out on this whole coronavirus bit. Do notice here that it was of course banned pretty swiftly, and just keeping in line with this 16, notice the likes are 61. It's a mirror of 16, of course mirrored and added is 77, which is going to be another huge focal point today. But what I want you to be able to understand here, and I'm going to pull this up because YouTube, when they ban a video, they essentially take the rights, and so I couldn't show you any clips from this if I didn't still have my copy, which fortunately after my Alanis Morissette video, the first one I did, that had to have been like 6-7 years ago at this point, was actually removed remotely from my hard drive. I now back all of these up. But what I want you to see here is this excerpt from this banned video. I'm actually going to do something a little different and play this for you because I feel that the narrative that I was starting to unpack at that point has more or less come to pass. And I do want this just to be a very pronounced example of impossible coincidence. So let's take a look at this. It's going to be a couple minutes. My overall notion here would be that, real as the virus may be, its origins can be arguably non-organic, right? This can be something that was absolutely developed, as we have seen mountains of evidence for agencies conducting all sorts of bio research, right? All sorts of very suspicious deaths. We're going to talk about that a little later on. But again, for a stated purpose. And that is a multifaceted answer that comes out there, right? It's not one-dimensional. There are many reasons that these things happen, right? There's social reasons, economic reasons, all of it is interwoven. And so keep in mind an awareness of that as we go through the video, as the days go by with this. All right? So let's get in here and really start pulling this apart, and to set the stage and give some more just support to the uncanny synchronicity here. Let's take a look at when my last video was posted to today. So that's a span of 186 days. And what did I say I'm here to talk to you about today? The SARS-CoV-2 virus, which has a simple value of 186. No fucking kidding. And who am I to talk about this 6 months and 4 days later? 64, Clow, Amen, Thelema, Harihara, right? On and on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it there, although I would love to play that entire video for you. We have, again, an immense amount of ground that I want to be able to cover today. So as we go to unpack this, let's now connect that to this phrase, follow the science. Now, you'll see here, of course, references to the New World Order, the currency reset, President Joe Biden, all of the things. And you also have written out here the numbers 222. Now, when we look at that simple value of the 222, please remember that it came up in some of the coding from my most recent video and discussion of the date January 27th, Holocaust Remembrance Day, which we are going to visit towards the end of this video because, surprise, surprise, there's a lot of really compelling developments around that. But I want to take a moment here to emphasize a couple of other things with that 222. Now, in that banned video, we had brought up the fact that the false flag attack on 9/11/2001 to the World Health Organization's declaration of the global pandemic on March 11, 2020 was exactly 222 months, or 18 years and 6 months. So there is that 186 again, with the references to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, as well as, right, destroying America, world conquest, and 9/11 style. Again, that was from an actual article that I had referenced in that video. But take a look as well at this coding for that 222, because these are also major pieces, including the reference to natural born killers, which, remember, I did tie in as, not only reference to the movie, but also the idea of, right, a virus and how that phrase is applicable to pathogens. Now, notice as well the references to the World Economic Forum, as well as impossible coincidences. Now, what I also want you to tune into is the fact that the Joe Rogan Experience is referenced in this 222 coding. Now, what is so very interesting to me, if we go back to the left side of your screen, you'll see here that I have pulled up Neil Young acting on his Spotify ultimatum regarding, right, this whole thing around free speech, and essentially how he didn't want that to be a thing. So take a look over here, because I had typed in, as you can see, when did Neil Young leave Spotify? And the first thing it brings up, right, is talking about on January 26th. That Young was the first to pull much of his music right after his ultimatum. What's interesting, and this is something that I've talked to you about countless times in the past, is as I'm doing these videos, there is a constant shifting of what is presented. So you can see here, I had typed this in after I had been doing this research, and now all of a sudden, well, we don't want to bring up that fucking January 26th, because Clow is going to, right, just drill it into our fucking heads. And so, of course, right now we see references to January 24th and all of these other bits, the 27th, and I can ring it in on and on and on here, okay? But I do want to emphasize that, because that is no mistake that they are trying to mislead on that and get people not to notice. But I want you to notice here as well, because Neil Young, and I thought about that, his name, and it kind of is a play on words, right? Because they want the young to kneel to their fucking power plays here, right? To not want people to question or to defy the narrative, right? There's a reason, I think, that these variants of COVID are always referred to, right, as BA whatever, and a reference to Ba, because that's all this is, right? Calling the herd and the sheep. Now, I want you to tune in here as well, because Neil Young happens to be turning 77 this year on November 12th. And that date, of course, we can reduce to a nice 222 there. And again, that is no coincidence, okay? And when we really take this that step further, and I'm talking to you about, right, this previous video that was pulled because, it was showing the span of time between my Chelsea Wolf video and my first COVID video. Of course, that Chelsea Wolf video is our premiere exploration of the number 77. So any questions that you have regarding that are not answered today, I highly encourage you to go watch that video. Now, when we're thinking about Neil Young and why, this would kind of be the guy to try to spearhead the dissolution of free speech, because again, right, Rogan, and we've talked all about him, right, JRE equals 33. I have a whole video on his stupid ass. But I want you to see here that Neil Young has these very important letters after his name, right? OC, Order of Canada, is a Canadian national honor and the second highest honor for merit. You can see he also has OM, the Order of Manitoba, a civilian honor. And so it makes sense to me that this fucking tool on the 4th day of the People's Convoy, remember that whole trucker bit, and, you know, on their way to Ottawa to protest these mandates. And again, thinking about all the trouble I got into back when over those Alanis Morissette videos, remember she happens to be from Ottawa. And this is something, again, I talked about years ago, how Ottawa's flag, not so sneakily, has a nice 666 right on it there. And of course, all of the things I could go into with Trudeau and his attack on, right, free speech, as well as just basic human rights and his misuse of power, and just the, you know, fucking tool that he is. But I digress, because I want to spend some time here unpacking something that really caught my eye on January 26th of this year, because again, hyper focused on that. So on that date, and let's see if I can get my tab straight over here. So on that date, we have AstraZeneca, which again, A, Z, the first and 26 letters, is officially officially flagged with the warning of transverse myelitis in connection to their COVID vaccine. And of course they say it's extremely rare and this and that, because, right, all of the side effects from the vaccine are extremely rare. Anybody who has any sort of negative experience with that, right, is probably, you know, just distorting the truth, or, you know, something completely unfounded. It couldn't have anything to do with the experimental nature of these. But what I want you to see here is transverse myelitis, which is a inflammation of the spinal cord. Starts with the letters T and M, the 20th and the 13th letters. So we can add those. Of course, we have a nice 33. That phrase happens to be 18 letters. So we have a moon card and a reference to, of course, Baphomet and all of the things. I want you to also notice in that coding for it a reference to August 28th and the phrase "from Russia with love." Now, 828, again, I did reference it in the amount of views when this video that I first put out on COVID was pulled, and it's a number that you hear me talk about and get excited about pretty often, and the reason for that is because it is actually connected to Pez theory. It is the English value for 138. So you can, of course, take a look at all of that information. 138 is something we see all the time on this channel, and it is something that I am absolutely going to be delving into later on in this video. But so, in thinking about that, right, our transverse myelitis and how it's coming to pass on 126 and its relation to AstraZeneca, I want you to also see here that AstraZeneca did come up in my previous video here. And again, relation to this number 113. Again, the start of the pandemic mirrored there, 311. And so all of this, again, beyond coincidence. You can also see the reference to Mac Defense LLC. Remembering years ago that I put out the video talking about Mack trucks and how they would play a role in the dissolution, right, sometime in the future. So again, we see reference here to predictions worldwide, all of the things, okay? So take a moment to let that one really just resonate. But let's look back on the left side of our screen. So transverse myelitis affects the spinal cord. So if you notice here, the reference to spinal cord has that simple value of 111. Of course, the English value on that is 666. Now, when we look at the coding here, we happen to have vaccination and a COVID vaccine and mark of beast, mandatory. Do you see the fucking theme going on here? But what I also want to tune you into here is the referencing to Dollar Crash, as well as Horned Beast and Adolf A. Hitler. And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to put all of these pieces together, and I happened to see an ad that day. And that ad was very bizarre to me, because it was for the Wings for Life World Run. And something that I want you to see here is not only the date of May 8th, but that it starts at 4 a.m., wherever your time happens to be. And part of why this is so interesting to me is because all of the funds for this organization go towards spine research. And so if I can get through all of the kind of horse shit that they have on here, you can see that everything goes towards spinal cord research, so they say. And so all of these fun numbers here, which I absolutely encourage you to pull apart, but again, the peculiarity that it happens to be starting at 4 your time. And again, we already have one reference to the number 4 today, because January 26th was the 4th day of the People's Convoy. And I am going to pull up on the right side of your screen here, not only the coding for the number 4 for you to be able to check out somewhere in here. Okay, so here you have from our last video the actual coding for the number 4 written out, and you can of course see Operation COVID, One World Order, Secret Society, all of the things here. References as well to that holy linden tree. But I want you to also be able to take a look here at the write-up that we did for the number 4 and all of its major connections to the world in which we live. Okay, so that's this whole bit right here. Okay, so with all of that being put into place, let's start to break apart how it is connected with the vaccine, with Hitler, with the Horned Beast, with all of it. All right, and before I do that, I do want to take my typical kind of 20-odd minute in kind of breather here. So give me just one moment. Okay, here we go. Amazing band, by the way. That's the Meyer for anybody who's interested. So, in breaking this apart, the Wings for Life World Run takes place on May 8th this year. So, that's very interesting because that is the day before Putin declared that this whole Russian invasion of Ukraine is supposed to be completed right on May 9th, because that is Victory Day, and it happens to be the 77-year anniversary of Victory Day. And I just thought it was so very interesting how that timing lined up. And when I was thinking about this whole bit with Wings for Life and this and that, and the fact that both of the founders for this event happen to be of Austrian descent. That would be Dietrich Mateschitz, and whatever his fucking buddy's name is. I don't have him pulled up. But both of them are of Austrian descent, as you can see here. Born in a place right referred to as Nazi Germany in 1944. So we've got a 44. You can see that he is currently age 77. He'll be turning 78 on May 20th. But very interesting to me because the connections to this 77 are very just stunning, and I thought that it was going to be really interesting with CNN plus closing down that platform less than a month after starting. Originally they were planning on dissolving it on April 30th this year, yesterday, which would have actually been the 77-year anniversary of Hitler's death. But for whatever reason, they decided to shut it down 2 days early. So on April 28th, we saw the closing of that. And how interesting, because on that same day, we have Biden announcing he wants to give $33 billion more to Ukraine. And this fucking guy, this whole thing, there's certain people, and it's hard to look at them, and this is a particularly sickening image of this fucking creep. But what I want you to see, again, it's the same day. This story is posted at 4:14. Again, this is a massively important number. If you mirror and add it, it is that 828. And I'll pull some stuff up for you later in this video on it because it is supremely important. But let's jump back over here though, and I want to kind of point out a few more connections to this 77. So WFL, abbreviation for Wings for Life, you can see here has a simple value of 41. And this is important. I did highlight this April 1st date because it will come up a little later on here. I do want you to be able to see this connection that writes Red Bull was actually founded on April 1st, 1987. And so David Blaine, when he did his special, The Magic Way, which was released on April 1st, 2020, that was actually the 33-year anniversary of Red Bull. So how fucking interesting is that? But going back up here, that simple value 441 does give us references to USA, Home, and Oz. And you might be thinking Wizard of Oz, which is completely fair. But I'm thinking Liber Oz because that is actually book 77 from Crowley. And I want you to be able to see here, oh my gosh, the profound references that we have. And let's look at this because you can see Liber 77 written out with Roman numerals does come up with this 146 coding and its connections to me. All of these major pieces, this is a hallmark number for us, but also the numbers 68 and O and Z reduced to the numbers 6 and 8. So it really does come across very profoundly. You can take a look some more at this. Liber Oz, beginning with the phrase, the law of the strong, how that wraps in with the number 216, which is, of course, a slight movement of 126, and all of the ways that we're going to continue to explore that throughout this video. But I think it is supremely important for you to be able to see that. I do want to show you the most recent 146 that we had come up, because of course it's tied in with, right, all of my stuff with geriatric shit. It's going to take me just a second here to get to the end, but here you go. So you can see more of how this all lines up with our research. So I'm going to come back to 77 in a moment here, but let's sidebar and let's look at Mr. Dietrich Mateschitz. Almost confident that I'm pronouncing that wrong. Of course, though, D and M both reduced to 4, so we have another 44. Hold on to it. And you also have another 18-letter phrase. Again, that totaling the moon card. And I think we have a bit on here with 18-letter phrases. So there's just a couple of those. And you can see how they line up. so much of what we've already been talking about. But so let's keep going. I don't even think that's a completely updated list, but that is wonderful. The references to the World Economic Forum, Natural Born Killers, and Joe Rogan Experience, all things that we've hallmarked in this video already. But so with Dietrich here, notice that he has that simple value of 200, and these references to the Misfits bullet, the black Donald Trump shot. And for those of you, again, that have been following me for a while, you're going to see this for the umpteenth time. And it's this Misfits bullet EP, because, again, you just had that entire phrase, the Misfits bullet, what is actually written on the cover here with Kennedy having his brains blown out. And all of these references, right? 138, of course, as we were talking about moments ago, and its connection to Pez theory, on and on, all the things that I could say, even in the vein of synchronicity. Bullet is 137 in length. And of course, right, this whole bit here with CNN shutting down 2 days earlier, posted at 1:37 a.m. I could go on and on. RK, right, those are my initials, but 9 and 11 is what that reduces down to if you are wanting to take it all the way to the bank, which you know that I do. So in any case, in finishing out his coding here, talking about after Trump is shot, the comedy is finished. We then have Ruler of the World, which I want you to hold on to, because that is the meaning of a very prominent figure's name right now. And, hold on to that. We'll come back to it later. Notice as well the reference there to the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I also want to tune you in here to Red Bull having that 44474 coding, because this is obviously major. I want you to see all of these deities of reference that do come up in relation to that, including Jesus, Lucifer. We have dark blue, again, all of the things I've talked about with Kali. And you can notice as well here, nuclear weapon, right? On and on, all of the things. And 74 did actually come up in the last video as well, because we were talking about all of the Greek letters that had been assigned thus far for the COVID variants. When you added them together, they totaled to 74. So for whatever that's worth, right? Just some crazy fucking nut over here. But sorry, guys. There's just so much. And so let's keep moving. So Red Bull's actual slogan is Red Bull gives you wings with 3 eyes. And this is due to a lawsuit because somebody said, right, I didn't actually get wings. Son of a bitch. And what I want you to see here is that actually shares the coding with two of the phrases I came up with in my last video for red and white syringes, as well as vaccines under the microscope. Those are references to the most recent World Ahead Economist cover. So on the right side of your screen, you can see some more of that information. Of course, I highly recommend you just go and watch that video in its entirety. But notice as well here a reference to angel number 77, again, coming up all throughout today, more to come, as well as the world follows the beast and world's extinction soon. So when we start to break down wings, you'll notice that it is a simple value of 72. Again, this is another very important number. And part of this, right, you can see the reference to Monday. And the reason that's so important is because that is actually Victory Day this year. That is going to be May 9th is Monday. And notice as well, bullets. What were we just talking about with that Misfits color, as well as race games. Now this can be a reference to, right, race games is in a social construct of, right, different races. Or this is a reference to the games that they play centered around races, i.e. all of my exploration of the New York City Marathon and what that's had to do with so many other pieces. You'll also see here a reference to God's race, money, Hitler, again, as well as monarch and world. Okay, these are a lot of very important pieces. And you'll see here that I have this date span written out from August 14th, 1945 to October 24th of 1945. So what you have there is victory over Japan Day and the formation of the United Nations. So a lot of controversy that I was seeing, or not controversy, but inconsistency over this, because you can see, from the History Channel, they say that August 14th is victory over Japan Day,